They asked me to get traffic to the website. I'm like, sure. How do you do that? And because you are writing for your audience, you are also writing for bots. Because again, back in the day, links were a huge deal. They are still a big deal. There's a few things. Like one is there's a lot of ways to go about learning SEO. Before you even get to the point of like, should I hire an agency? Should I do this in-house? I think it's important to realize like what SEO actually is.
Super nice having you, Mordy. Amazing having you on the show. How's it going? Tell us a bit about yourself.
Good. Yeah. Hey, thanks for having me. Wow. About myself. How much time do you have? Where should I start?
You have a lot of time. You can take all the time.
No, I'm the head of SEO brand at Wix. What I basically do is position the Wix brand for digital marketers and the SEO community. So basically how we're seen, how we're perceived, how we talk to the professional digital marketing community is kind of what I do.
Super fun.
Yeah.
How do you get into SEO?
I got into SEO, so it's like, one thing leads to the next thing, which leads to the next thing. I got into SEO. I was writing for an educational software company. I used to be a teacher back in the day.
Okay.
And before that, I used to be the CEO of a property management company. It's like my fourth career already. I'm also old. I'm older than I look. I'm an old person. So, yeah, thank you. But I feel old. And I feel old telling this story because like, and I was working for an educational software company, and I had I was doing writing for them. I always had a very strong writing background, and they asked me to write content for their website. I'm like, sure, no problem. And then they asked me to get traffic to the website. I'm like, sure. How do you do that? And that's how I got into SEO. I eventually became the content manager for an SEO platform called Rank Ranger. I became their CMO. So I've always kind of like done like the SEO thing and the marketing thing at the same time. I used to work as the head of comms for Semrush, which is the biggest SEO platform. And this is my second tour of duty at Wix. I was there, the liaison to the SEO community. Basically, like, it's a fancy way of saying I was a person who fixed Wix's reputation around SEO. Because like back in the day, there was not a great reputation for a variety of reasons. We can get into that or not get into that. And I came in and fixed it. So here I am.
That's fun. Makes total sense. For people who aren't even aware of this, even in 2024, tell us what is SEO and why is it important?
Yeah, so SEO is search engine optimization, and it's basically, it itself has a brand problem. A lot of people look at SEO as sort of like manipulating Google, and that's what it was back in the day. It was like stuff your key, you want to rank for, I don't know, socks, stuff the word socks in everywhere, and then buy a bunch of links to get other sites to link to your page about socks, and you'll rank for everything. That's not how real SEO works anymore. It hasn't worked that way for a long time, basically because of the way Google changed their algorithm. Now it's really about, knowing what to write about, how to write about it, because you are writing for your audience. You are also writing for bots at the same time. Like, Google is great. Google also has gaps, and you have to make sure they can crawl the page well, all the technical things. So there's the technical side of SEO, there's the content side of SEO, and a little bit of links in between. But it basically helps you do better on search engines. Google does account for like 50% of web traffic, something like that. Not to say that other channels don't matter. People take that number and they misrepresent it, because yes, they might come to you through Google, but they might have seen you, they might have seen you on a billboard somewhere, then Googled your company and then went to the website.
That's great. What's the biggest SEO myth you've encountered in your career, and how do you debunk it?
Oh man, there's a lot. I don't know where to start with that one. The biggest SEO myth. I want to say that like links are the be all end all, which is probably not what most SEOs would say is like a myth. I'll call it like a misconception rather than a myth. Can I spin that? Okay. Because again, back in the day, links were a huge deal. They are still a big deal, but they're not a big deal in the way that most people who are looking to get into SEO think it is. When you start getting into SEO, you start researching, okay, what should I focus on? And links come up right away, but they're coming up right away to a certain extent because of yesteryear, not what's currently helping websites, kind of thing.
That makes sense. I've heard this as well a lot, especially for someone who's not much into the understandings of actually how it works. I've heard that, the backlinking thing.
Yeah, it's like SEO backlinks, like the first thing you think of, which is why I'm saying that, like, for the audience who may not know a lot about SEO, don't get caught in that trap.
Awesome. So for this conversation, let's make this for someone who doesn't know SEO and wants to get into it. How would you advise someone to start their time in it? Or rather say, how to internalize this as a skill?
Yeah, so there's a few things. Like, one is there's a lot of ways to go about learning SEO. The first thing that makes it hard, by the way, is that it's a little bit all over the place. You get a little bit here, you get a little bit there. Hard to get a full picture of it. Like we have a whole like SEO learning hub that we created as part of our way of like repositioning Wix for digital marketers. We created an entire SEO learning hub. We have a course coming out, I think in a week, 2 weeks. That the reason why we created the course is because when you first learn SEO, you're trying to fill all these gaps. Like I read an article here, I listened to a podcast there, but it's really hard to get like, start to finish kind of thing. So there are courses. One of the things that's hard is there are a lot of bad actors in the SEO space. So really research who's putting the course out. If you're taking a course, if you're reading blogs, make sure you're getting really good information from really reputable people. There's, again, a lot of speculation in the industry, a lot of bad actors in the industry. I'll also say, like, for me, when I was first getting into this, reading the SEO news and keeping up with it was a great way to learn. Check out seroundtable.com. We actually do, Barry Schwartz is like the king of the SEO news. We actually do a daily news thing with him on the Wix SEO Learning Hub. You can catch that also. But I'm like, now I'm just marketing myself. I don't mean to do that.
Sure.
Yeah. So just keeping up with the news and like what's happening and seeing where things are going, and it kind of helps you to realize what you don't know. Like, oh, I didn't realize that, and then taking that thing that you didn't know and Googling it. I'm like, oh, okay, let me research that more. So taking what you're seeing, whether it's a blog post, whether it's a news article, and realizing, okay, I don't know exactly what that is, and then researching it yourself is probably the best thing you can do.
That's a good path, yeah. I would love your opinion on this. Do you think SEO agencies work, or is it better for companies to slowly and develop an in-house strategy for it?
I don't know. So like in SEO, like the line is, it depends. So first off, like before you even get to the point, like, should I hire an agency? Should I do this in-house? I think it's important to realize like what SEO actually is. It's a channel, right? And it's an increasingly unstable channel because Google is much more volatile. So if you're like thinking like, I need to get, my business going, one, SEO takes time. It takes a good, I'll say 6 months to a year for it to really kick in. It can be very stable. It can also be very unstable. Don't substitute good brand building over an extended period of time with SEO. Like, oh, I'll get a lot of traffic. It'd be the same thing like just, I'm going to throw a lot of ads and I'm not going to actually build up my brand in a healthy way. It's the same thing. And don't put all your eggs in one basket, because Google can one day just turn that faucet off with an algorithm update and say, you're out. You're not ranking anymore and you're not getting any traffic. It can happen. Now, should you go in-house? Should you go with an agency? I don't know, because I don't know the situation. But what I will say is 100% of the time, if you're not invested, if you're just like, all right, we have to do the whole SEO thing, we're going to hand it off to an agency, it will not work. It would be an absolute waste of money. So I'd say first get to the point where you're a little bit into the SEO, you're researching it, you're interested in it, you're following it, and then go to the agency, because at least you'll be invested in doing it the right way at that point.
Makes sense. Like, fundamental clarity is, I think, the base for a lot of these things. Even with, let's say, doing UX strategy, like outsourcing it versus doing it in-house, brand strategy, outsourcing it, doing it in-house, and as you said, right, ads, just for the sake of doing it, that doesn't help in the long term. It's basically, it shows a lack of clarity, and without it, even SEO will go for a toss. So
1,000%. Completely agree with
makes
that.
Sense.
Yeah.
Tell us about content creation, Mordy. What makes a good story, article, blog, a piece of content great and memorable?
Wow, that's a really good question. So sometimes you look at that like, okay, like I met the needs of the user. They had a question, I gave them an answer. That must mean that it was good. It's good quality, it hit the pain point, yada, yada, yada. I don't look at it like that. I think the human experience is much more complex and much richer than just, oh, I had a need met, right? I had a question, or even like from a product point of view, right? I wrote a product page, or I wrote a post on social media. I explain what the product is, and now the user has their need met. They know exactly what they need to do. That's not how we work. That'd be like saying like, yeah, I'd really like to get married to somebody because like they're really great at like fixing like the car. I'll never have a car problem with them.
Right.
They'll always fix the car. They'll always wash the dishes. That's very utilitarian. It's not how we as humans work. I look at good content as something that resonates, right? What resonates with you? So yes, I might be telling you how to change a tire in the article, and it may be very simple, but did I do it in a way that resonates with my audience? Does it actually like hit them as the right way? So not just about is a question answered, but is there an actual emotional resonance? Like, do they feel taken care of? Do they feel like with this content, like it really like understood who they were, that sort. And generally speaking, when you're trying to do that, let's leave aside like, you know, a particular like piece. When you look at content as a whole, and content, I think one thing to realize is that your content is a corpus. It all works together. It all works together on the SEO side. It all works together on the brand side. Every piece should kind of like produce a picture that when you step back, you zoom out like, oh, I really understand that brand now. I really connected with them. And to resonate, there has to be something that offers depth. I like to call it, when I do like brand audits, when I audit the brand's identity, I have something called the depth concept. Meaning yes, everyone talks about brand identity. I'm not looking to see like, do you have brand identity, not have brand identity? Now, obviously I am, but what I really want to see in a brand is, do you have a depth concept? And what I mean by that is, let's say I'm an amusement park of Six Flags in the US. I could have my identity as it's a place to have lots of fun. Fun is a very transient kind of thing. Fun is very surface level. Like, yeah, it's nice. Or I could be like, our entire brand is about, for one day, just let go of everything. Come to our amusement park and let go. Just let go of the stress, let go of life, have a great time. That's a much deeper concept. That's something that I can really grab onto. So whether it's your content or whether it's your identity as a whole that's seeping through, and it should seep through all of your content, there has to be something that resonates. And in order to resonate, there has to be a depth concept that's underlying all of it.
That's a really great concept if you think about it. Because there's something that comes to mind, that even when you're writing an article on fixing a tire, you're not just solving an utilitarian problem of solving a tire. You're actually helping someone if they're stuck with their family in a highway. You're actually helping them get out of the situation. That's much of an emotional turmoil at that point. Do you call a mechanic? Do you call a friend? What do you do? Right? So,
which, by the way, like what you're saying, like you have to think about who your audience is. Like, who are you trying to target with the changing of the tire? Is it a mechanic? Or in that case, like, maybe you probably want to, right? Or is it like you're saying, someone's stuck on the highway? Like, maybe the first thing you do, like step one, calm down. It's going to be okay. Step two, take out the wrench. If you're understanding who you're writing for, you know how to write it and how to position it.
Totally. This week, actually, I think you'll know it. There's a company called Odoo. It's like a business ERP solution company, and their CEO Fabian, I've been super influenced and super enamored by his insights and all. And so I consumed a lot of his podcasts, and all the insights I posted about it across like 3-4 days. Those posts didn't do as much well because personally, now that I look back on it, I wasn't able to elicit an emotion. I was just putting out information. Although the actual information did elicit an emotion in me, I couldn't elicit an emotion with my posts.
Yeah.
And that's learning.
Think about it for a second, okay? Like, go through your day, go through your month, whatever it is, and think about like all of the decisions that you made based on, I sat there and I weighed the pros and cons. I really intellectually, or how many are just like intuitive decisions that you made? And part of intuition is the emotional resonance. There has to be something that hits beyond the A plus B equals C kind of thing.
Makes sense. Talking about Wix, one of my earliest intros into like the tech world actually happened with Wix. I made my first website with it. It's amazing. Yes.
That's awesome.
About Wix, there's one thing that always comes to mind is there were, as you mentioned, right, at one point in time, it was kind of the most, you can say, the notable one in the no-code space. And now with increased competition, how do you envision Wix moving forward in this race of Framer, Workflow, and others?
So I always feel like the product will always lead everything, or the service, the offering, right? So what happened with Wix was, and it happened very much on the SEO side. I had a front row seat to watching this happen. You have teams. If teams are doing their job, if product teams are doing their job, they're going to innovate, they're going to create, and they're going to produce some really great things. And then sometimes over time, what happens, you step back and you're like, wait a second, like this thing isn't that thing anymore. It's a completely different thing, which, by the way, is time for a rebrand or time for a brand pivot. And what happened with Wix, one of my coworkers, Crystal Carter, who I'll give a shout out to, always says Wix is very cavernous. When you start to dive into it, like there's like, wow, it's like you go down this rabbit hole and that rabbit hole. I didn't realize a product could do this. And over time, whether it be on the SEO side, whether it be on the design side, on the content side, the content marketing side of things, content production side of things, the platform just really evolved to the point where we said, wait a second, Like, this is not the same thing anymore. And what we did was we created a new product called Wix Studio. We took the foundation of what was in Wix. Okay, what we basically created is something that it's much more scalable and it's much more powerful than it was before, and it really speaks to agencies. And we saw that basically because agencies started to use us a lot more than they used to. So why don't we go ahead and steer into that, and why don't we create a product that's specifically designed for agencies or large-scale teams? In my mind, agencies and large in-house teams are kind of the same thing. They kind of operate the same way to a certain extent. So we built Wix Studio, which is a powerful design platform, a website building platform with powerful design features that's basically built, not basically, it's built for an agency. So that you can do things like hand off to the client, report to the client much more easily, have the scalable assets, reusable assets, that sort of thing. So that the future of Wix I see, if I had to look at Wix 5 years from now, it may sound crazy to you if you're listening to this. Wix is going to become an enterprise solution for people. I'm not saying the current product is enterprise for people. The current product is, if you're using traditional Wix, classic Wix, it's for an SME. If you're using Wix Studio, it's built for an agency. We do have an enterprise product, but I think if you fast forward in 5 years from now, you're going to hear and start thinking about Wix from an enterprise point of view much more readily often than you do now, which I think is, like, for some people, like, that's peculiar. But if you see the trend of where it's going, that's where it's going, I think.
I don't doubt that vision. That makes sense. Can you expand on that?
Yeah. So, the things that I always feel like, again, like I mentioned before, when you're building for an agency, at the same time, you're really hitting on a lot of the pain points that a large in-house team also has. Right, the things that that are a little bit different. And again, I'm coming from a digital marketing point of view, not from a design point of view. Maybe from designers, it's a little bit different. But a lot of those things, like producing content at scale, distributing content at scale, editing content at scale, whether you're in-house, whether you're an agency, that's the same thing. That's the same process. Like, agency side SEO and in-house SEO are very, very, very similar. For example, where you have a little bit of a difference on the reporting side, right? I don't have to do a handoff to a client. I'm in-house. On the reporting side, you're not reporting to a client, but you're reporting to, a stakeholder. You're the marketing manager or the CMO. Because Wix has pivoted so heavily to agencies now, to me, the next natural pivot in 5 years from now, 10 years from now, whatever it is going to be, wait a second, like, this thing is super applicable to enterprise level teams or enterprise level agencies at this point. That's just the next logical step. That, in my mind. I do not represent Wix leadership, so I don't know exactly how they're thinking about it. And again, we already do have an enterprise offering, but in my mind, that's how I kind of see things playing out.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense, yes. As a brand strategist, I would love to know what's currently like your North Star at Wix.
I'm sorry, say it again?
As like a brand strategist, personally, what's like your North Star at Wix?
Momentum. I'm a big believer in momentum. I look at brand in general as a way of generating momentum and cadence. Right? You have some kind of like life force, okay? And this life force should produce momentum, and that momentum could be a lot of different things. It could be, bigger following on social media. It could be more opportunities to partner with different people, which creates more opportunities and more opportunities and more opportunities. If you're doing branding right, it should generate some kind of momentum, which should produce some kind of possibilities or potential. Right? Unlocking that, by the way, sometimes those possibilities are very targeted. Like, I want to build momentum so I can have the possibility and the opportunity to do X. Sometimes those opportunities, I feel like, and maybe I'm wrong, are ill-defined or undefined. I don't know what exactly the opportunity is going to be, but what I do know is if I create the momentum, the opportunity will be there. And I'll say, as a brand strategist, don't be afraid of that. Just because you don't know what the opportunity will be, if you're confident there will be opportunities, it is worthwhile anyway. And then lean into whatever comes your way. So I'm a big believer in momentum. The thing that guides my planning strategy. I think I posted on LinkedIn relatively recently. The way I plan out next quarter, next couple of quarters, next year, is where's the momentum at right now, and what potential, what possibility, opportunity does that give me? What could I naturally pivot into next? What's the next? Because I feel like brands should evolve naturally. One thing should build upon the next thing in a very, I want to say logical kind of way, because sometimes it's not very logical, but in a very natural kind of way where one thing flows right into the next thing. So when you build up that momentum, it does help you have the ability to say, okay, like, this thing is this, its inertia, its energy is going that way. Let's build on that. What's the next logical thing? What's the next natural thing that we can evolve into based on what we currently have now? That's kind of like the way I operate on the strategic level, year in, year out, quarter in, quarter out, day in and day out. Maybe not day in and day out.
No doubt you have rose up the ranks in like 4 careers already, right? It's a proper startup mentality and some momentum, right? And it makes sense. Totally makes sense. Even in the perspective, I think it's Naval Ravikant's quote or something, which is about, maximizing your surface area of getting lucky, which is as many darts as you throw, as many chances as you have of hitting something.
Yeah, and it's not even as like random as that, right? Because right? I know. Okay, yes. I know if I create a new, let's say, positioning, or I create a new content asset, that it's going to increase the quality and the level of engagement I'm going to get, and that's going to produce all sorts of possibilities. So I'm like, it's not even like throwing a dart and like, oh, is it gonna land? I know it's gonna land. You know what it's like? Mm-hmm. You ever know that toy in an arcade? It's like the claw thing, and it pulls up a prize. You know for sure you're gonna get something. And wait, let me rephrase that. In reality, you're not gonna get anything. But in my construct, imagine you're gonna get something. You're gonna get a prize. It could be a teddy bear. It could be, I don't know, money. I don't know what's in these things anymore. I haven't played these things in 20 years. You're gonna get something. You just don't know exactly what it is. But whatever that thing is awesome. That's what it's like.
That makes sense. That's a well-roundedness to the analogy. Yes. Amazing. Another thing that, of course, comes to mind is we have to address the elephant in the room, AI. How do you see the landscape changing? Content, SEO, all of that?
It wouldn't be a podcast unless we talked about AI. I'm somewhere in the middle on AI. I don't think it's really ready for content generation and outside of like specific select use cases. And then what I mean by that is where you give it context, like from the SEO side. If you want to have take this article, review the article, write a short summary that it can use as a meta description. Fine, you're giving it closed parameters and borders to operate in. There, I think it can do things like, take this paragraph, write me a headline, write me a header. Okay. The issue is like when you don't give it those very close confined parameters, it kind of hallucinates. It doesn't get things right. People go to ChatGPT and ask it something very, well known. Like, I don't know, who are the top 5 baseball players or whatever it is. Like, every list across the internet is going to say the same 5 people. And you feel like, wow, AI really is great. Ask it something a little bit more nuanced. Like, ask it like, what are the best SEO podcasts? Or what are the best brand marketing podcasts? And when you do that, I just did this the other day, that's why I'm saying this, it gets the hosts wrong. It mixes up the host from one podcast to another podcast. It gets the name wrong. It's still just like not there yet. So I'm cautious about it. From a brand point of view, brand marketers should be loving AI, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. And they should be loving AI, and they should be loving the fact that people are looking to be more conversational, except the big brands don't do this. So if you're a big brand and you're listening to this, it's worth the risk. People are looking for conversational content. Google's freaking out because they saw people are going to TikTok for answers because they want to have a conversation, right? People are looking for something less. People have caught on. Think of the internet as a person. I would say the internet is like in its like teenage years. It's starting to get wiser and smarter. It's not like the same idiot kid as it once was. I know what you're doing on that landing page. You're trying to sell me something. I don't want that. So people are wising up and they're looking for something that's a little bit more natural, a little bit more conversational. That's one. At the same time, AI itself is generic, right? AI is literally scouring the web, putting things together. For brand people, this is a great time. People are already looking for something more conversational. The influx of generative AI content is just going to create the same thing over and over and over again that's not differentiated. As a brand person, you should be coming and saying, here's how we talk to audiences, and here's how we differentiate. Because what you're doing is you're not talking to audiences, you're still writing like it's 2005, get the ultimate powered whatever on the landing page, and now you're using AI to do it. So you're not talking to the audience, you're talking at the audience, not with them. And you're not even differentiated because you're using the AI to write up the content, and the AI can't be differentiated. It's a great time to be a brand marketer, to come in and say, hey, let's change our tone and let's be more differentiated. Here's how you do this.
Well, that's a great opportunity.
The big brands are relying on AI. The big brands are scared to get more conversational because big brands in general, well, this has been working for so long. I don't want to pivot.
It's also that lots of opportunity. It's also that at the end of the day, the big brands have a lot of brand equity, and that means they can take risks. I mean, a Google messing up is fine. it's not that bad. Versus a small startup messing up can mean the startup ending.
Right? You would think that the bigger brands are in a better position to take more risk, but you see like they're not, because there's a lot of red tape to go through. They don't want to lose what they have. Like if you're a startup, like no risk it, no biscuit. What do I have to lose? I don't have anything, so I might as well risk it.
I'll use that phrase for sure. No risk it. If you don't risk it, no biscuit.
I stole that. I stole it from a football coach. What's his name? Bruce Arians said that.
Okay, amazing. That's why you can see like Microsoft is functioning like properly a startup at this point in time. This is going all in.
Some brands are really good at it. Some brands, they know how to pivot. They know how to like, okay, like we have to change. We can't just stay with the same thing. Other brands, not so much.
I remember I wanted to ask you this. What's like the most unusual SEO tactic that you've heard of or even tried?
Most unusual? I'm not.
Unusual, unique, something that you wouldn't expect.
I'm slow and steady wins the race on the SEO side. I'm not like trying like some like crazy thing in order to see if it works. I will, okay. The craziest thing I've ever done, sometimes Google has gaps in the algorithm, and you can really see it. Like sometimes Google's really well smart. They got their, they have their act together. Sometimes there's gaps. So, for example, like sometimes you'll see like Google will, if someone's searching for, I don't know, best vacuum cleaner. This is not an actual case, by the way. I'm just making a hypothetical. Best vacuum cleaner. The only thing that ranks are pages where the H1 says best vacuum cleaner, like 1-to-1 match, like it's like old school SEO, like it's 1995 kind of thing. So there was a podcast I run, and there's another podcast that I'm part of. I'm like, hey, there's a gap in the algorithm here. Like if you search for best whatever podcast, Google's only showing results that have best podcast in the podcast title. I'm like, all right, let's go crazy. And I like, is this the best podcast? No, but if this was on the homepage, but if I write that it's the best podcast, Google will think that it is the best podcast, and it will rank me for best whatever podcast. That was the homepage copy. That's probably the craziest thing I ever did. Terrible for my branding, but it worked for the SEO.
Fun experiment indeed,
Yeah, it was a fun experiment. It worked, by the way, and at a certain point I took it off because like, all right, this is a little too cringe.
Yeah.
And then I lost the rankings. So then I put it back.
Tell us about your podcast. Wanted to come to that.
Oh man, I got so many. Which one? I do the Sherps Up podcast. That's the official Wix SEO podcast. It's SEO plus. We get into a lot of content marketing. We get into brand marketing. Hey, I'm a brand marketer, so we cover a lot of brand and how brand overlaps with SEO. Definitely check that out. If you're looking to get up to date on the digital marketing news, I do two things. We do It's New. It's a quick, 5-10 minute snappy kind of news thing, basically about SEO and PPC. We do it with Barry Schwartz and Greg Finn. That you can find on the Wix SEO Hub or on the Rusty Brick YouTube channel. And I also do Edge of the Web, which is a performance marketing news podcast and interview series. I don't do the interview series with them. I just do the news with them every week. So if you're looking to get up to date on performance marketing, you can check that out as well. I talk a lot. It's kind of my problem.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And you speak good. It was such a fun conversation, man. This is great. You have super fun energy. I learned a lot. This is super interesting.
Nice.
Thanks for your time.
Yeah, that's the best part about doing a podcast.
Yes. Awesome. See you then.
Thank you.